Hello, hello, and good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy glorious sunny Wednesday. That is all I can say. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very happy to hear that it's only gonna be 80 today and not 90 like we were promised. But don't worry, folks, that 90 comes tomorrow. If this is your first time joining us, hello, my name is Sadie Reben. I'm the media producer for the Los Angeles Regional SBDC. The SBDC is a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country helping to stimulate economic growth through business advising and development. The LASBDC offers no-cost services through funding provided by the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, and from the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. It's your tax dollars at work. The Los Angeles Regional SBDC network operates 7 service locations throughout Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. Our services are also offered virtually. We are here to help. We empower small business owners by offering tailored solutions through personalized one-on-one business advising, cutting-edge workshops, and comprehensive programs, all provided at no cost. We are dedicated to supporting your entrepreneurial journey every step of the way. Lori, did you feel that? I feel zen
I
today. I think it's the sun.
is the sun out by you? Because I haven't seen the sun in a
Oh,
while. So
it's
send me a little
gorgeous.
sun.
It is gorgeous,
Oh,
Lori.
yeah. You know where I am. I'm mostly in rain. So, but I like it that way. I like it that way. Okay, guys, are we ready for a fabulous show? I say that every week, but they're so different and so unique and so much fun. So let's get started right away. I've got my usual things to share. Be watching for the chat. I have Sadie taxed with putting a whole lot of information in the chat. Did you like that? There was a pun in that. Sadie taxed with it. You'll get what that means. I know you're the only one that can pick up that joke, but okay, guys, hold that joke in your back pocket. It will become present in a bit. Okay, so the usual, the CFO series is going on. Sadie will put the information in there, and I also just scheduled the April one, so she'll put that in there as well. Upcoming for the rest of the March, I can't believe I'm already talking about the rest of the March. Next week, David's going to be on again. Now, he's been on a couple times, and I'm always so pleased when he agrees to come back on. His area of expertise is retirement funds, and he talks about them in such a clear, concise way to understand. And what I love doing when he's on the show is we talk about retirement funds in relationship to if you have an employee, if you don't employee, and educate people that you can have a retirement fund through the company on a sole prop. So often people ask me, should I be taxed as an S corp? Different story, but I'm just getting there for a second in order to have some tax advantages, because that's what's being told on the internet all the time. And there is some truth, but mostly untruth in what people say. And what I always tell them is if you really want a fantastic tax strategy, not that being taxed as an S corp isn't appropriate in the right situation, having a retirement fund is awesome. Now, in my early days, I always thought you don't have a retirement fund if you don't have enough money to put away. But what I now know, especially as a tax person in a business, even if you put a little bit of money down, every penny buys down a little bit of tax you pay in. So I always look at it like, okay, put the money in my retirement or give it to the IRS. And you can actually have a tax person do this calculation to say, well, if you put 1,000 in, it will lower X amount on your tax return. It's not a dollar per dollar match. But nevertheless, this is a very powerful way to get your money into a retirement fund and lower the amount you're paying in taxes at this time. So, David, wonderful person, wonderful story he tells of how he got into it. I'm going to force him to tell the story again. But do tune in next week to learn about this, because even if you're not ready now, it's going to come down the road. And I always tell people you want to get this in place now and have it set up before the end of the year, because it has to be funded by the end of the year. Now, at the end of the month, March 25th, we got Matthew Schodorf coming on, and he owns Roaster Cafe de Leche, him and his wife. So it's going to be a fantastic story of how he got to where he is today and the early beginnings of the company, and family tradition comes in. There's a whole bunch of stories to go on that one. So it's going to be really fun. Now, for Lori's words of wisdom and why I said tax with putting a lot in the chat, we're going to talk about taxes today because it's the time of the year. And, by the time April comes past and I go, I'm not talking about taxes on the show for a while, because I get burned out on just talking about taxes. But right now we do need to cover this topic. So what we're going to talk about is the importance of filing tax returns. Now, you know me, guys. I'm not like, okay, Lori's scolding me. I have to. No, that's not the way I work, right? But what I want to do is I want to tell you about something that many people are not aware of, okay? And so I know right now it's weighing a lot of people. I got to get my tax return done. I maybe don't have a person doing my taxes. I got to find somebody. I don't have my information together. And what I've experienced over the years, especially through the SBDC, that one is too many, small business don't file their tax returns. They're concerned that they don't think they can pay it, so they don't file it. They don't want to know it. Believe me, I get it. I get where they're coming from. And even just recently, I've had more than a handful that haven't filed for a couple years, right? And I had to then tell them this that I'm about to tell you now. So I want to proactively tell you this so you have an awareness. So I'm not telling you in advance and in actually after it happened, I should say. And what's interesting is I didn't know this until I decided to take the awesome test that the IRS makes you take when you want to become an enrolled agent. And you have to take these huge amount of tests, 3 4 hour tests. We won't even talk about that. But during this time period of having learned for everything for these tests, this is what I learned. Okay, because the choice of not filing, so I'm speaking specifically of not filing, it's actually costing you more. So here's the key facts right from the IRS website. The failure to file penalty, failure to file, you didn't file by the deadline or the extension, is 5%. That's 5% per month on the unpaid tax, which can be up to 25% max. If you're more than 60 days late, there's even a minimum penalty of $525. The failure to pay penalty is only 0.5% per month, also up to a 25% max. That means not filing can cost you 10 times more every month than just not paying. The IRS actually reduces the filing penalty a bit when both apply, but the message they send out is crystal clear. File your return even if you can't pay a single dollar right now. Once you file, you can set up an affordable payment plan with the IRS and stop the bigger penalty from growing as well. So I get it. Avoidance, I get it. I totally do. But I just want you to understand what that choice does. Now, what I've also done is in the chat is I just searched everywhere. I searched for those type of services that will help you file for free. They are both from IRS as well as California and local. I pulled up a bunch of them, okay? So this gives you the opportunity as well to seek out someone to help you at no cost if needed. And a lot of times I tell people, although I'm not like a big fan of using H&R Block or any type of company such as that for ongoing business tax returns, because I think you need a little bit more assistance, I do say if you are at a point where you don't have anybody, you need to file the taxes, maybe working with one of the free ones doesn't work as well, go into an H&R Block, not one of these online things, but go into H&R Block. And the reason why I say that, this is my personal opinion, H&R Block's in the business of filing taxes, right? Some of these other online things, they're just an aggregate of loose people put together and you don't know who you're getting. But H&R Block is kind of like a little bit like, if I can compare it to Starbucks, it's got like a standard. You walk in, you get kind of the same tasting coffee every time. So they stand behind the returns. They have been doing it for years. They'll do business and personal, and you can usually walk right in and get service the same day because they know how to expand and contract in personnel during the tax season. So that's my words of wisdom. Just be aware of it. Pass it on to your friends if they say, man, I haven't filed. I just don't think I'm going to be able to, because why pay in a additional penalty if you do not have to? So that's my words of wisdom for today. Now, on to something much more fun, much more fun. Very excited to have our guest on today. Jon Sosa owns Fix Pro Audio, a company specializing in diagnosing and restoring high-end and vintage gear. In addition to benchmark repair work, Jon also serves as a lead audio consultant for a large scale convention facility, and he focuses on systems level planning, integration strategy, and long term reliability. Jon's key to success is his ability to blend old school bench skills with modern system knowledge. He is detail oriented and approaches every project with precision, clarity, and respect for how critical sound is to the people who rely on it. The result has been exceptional organic growth through referrals. Jon, I love it. I know you so well. You're just bashful hearing your bio even read in public. So I saw it. I was like reading and smiling and almost laughing because this is a perfect introduction to the audience on who Jon is. I saw you were like, oh my God, I'm hearing myself being read. I know you were. Welcome to the show, Jon. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, bios are because a lot of the times you are asked to contribute or write your own bio, and it's like, man, that's a lot. That's a lot. It's a it's an indulging effort. And but yes, thank you for having me on. Very excited to be here.
You're welcome. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to start out by just getting the audience an understanding in kind of something they can relate to on what it is you do. I can see there's a lot of really cool equipment back there that does some really wild things, but let's, for the everyday person that may not really comprehend what I just read, what is it that the company does?
Fix Pro Audio has basically sort of almost moved into two different things, and as you can hear from my bio, it's pretty obvious. There's a vintage restoration, almost like if you watched, I don't know, not HGTV, but like those cable TV shows where there's like that dude in like a vest that fixes old cars, and that's his show. That's one half, and it's pretty fun. And then the other half is, large scale facility consulting. And that's much less, soldering iron in hand, wrench in hand, if you will, and more so looking at systems and how the systems work together, and trying to maintain those systems and for the operators, and just kind of stay ahead of any possible maintenance failures and stuff like that. So yeah, those are kind of the two ends, wrench in hand and almost more of a button up
Gotcha. Now,
scientist.
when we talk about these audio systems,
Yeah,
give us a feel. Like, are we talking about you're going to come over? I'm giving a weird range just for you to fill in. You're going to come over and fix my radio and my radio in my car? Are you going, So let's come into more of an understanding of what type of customer, what type of situation would you be called for?
gotcha. So in reference to those two sides, one side with wrench in hand, I typically work with Southern California, Los Angeles music producers, recording engineers, recording studios, that use hardware to basically work on music, the hardware that creates music and music production. Those things can be, I mean, for like the average person, like you can even think of something as simple as a guitar amplifier. Um, the recording studios especially have specialized gear, probably not a lot of the stuff you'd see if you go to a concert. We're talking about stuff that is made for fine tuning, signals for music production. And a lot of those systems are actually, a lot of those pieces of hardware are actually still in use from the what we basically would consider to be the glory days of music, where hardware was um, made with extremely high-end components and had the sole purpose of you probably only have one piece, one type of this unit, and it has to be used for everything. So that's a very good, well-made unit. So a lot of those are still in production today or still in use today because a lot of the modern day stuff doesn't really abide by that same level of quality. Um,
Gotcha.
and just so that's sort of a basic kind of on that side of things. You can think of it as basically I'm a guitar amp repair tech. And anything there that you would basically anything you'd find in a recording studio. Large format consoles with the faders, if you ever see those guys in pictures in studios. Um, and then on the more of the facility side, that's a newer thing within the last 2 years. And the facility, I mean, I'll let you know the main facility I work at is Los Angeles Convention Center. And they had reached out to me to basically come over and just do some repair work. And I just thought that's ridiculous. That place is gigantic. At this point, I had worked at larger recording studios, but nothing at that scale. So I
Right.
didn't know exactly what I'd be getting into. And so after much back and forth where they were trying to get me to do it, which I thought was just funny because there's so many other bigger companies that could handle clients at that level. They finally twisted my arm enough and I went. And yeah, going into their AV rooms, which are just these huge rooms with racks and racks of gear that control every single speaker, every single microphone in a facility that can, I mean, hold tens of thousands of people easily, and does so on a weekly basis a lot of the time. Um, Going in there and basically trying to figure out how the whole thing works. Those larger systems in larger facilities like that, there's not a guy that when a cable gets moved, there's not a guy who writes down cable A was moved into cable B spot. So add that up for 30 years of of no note taking, and at some point it gets to a a position to where it can get really, really complicated and really bad because at some point the cables don't even work anymore. So, they called me in to basically, um, just get it back on track and get it back on paper as to how the whole thing works and where it's at in its health and its total lifespan remaining. So it was terrifying, and a lot of work, but now I can say really happily after 2.5 years that handling a facility at that scale it's actually not that bad. But it's just about taking notes and just trying to be really diligent about every single thing that operators are touching because these two worlds are very different in that in the recording studio world, if something breaks, it's sort of like the type of people in that world are very engineering mindset where they'll figure it out.
Right.
They're the ones directly handling the gear. A lot of the times they own the gear. It's about going fast and moving quick and getting things done. It's very artsy in that way. But in the commercial world, you're being hired because they don't know how this works, and nor do they have the time or bandwidth to figure it out. And that's why you're being called in. So if they're in the middle of a convention with 150,000 people currently in attendance, and this is usually how it works. There's one guy in one of the 500 rooms with one microphone and one cable plugging into a wall that is going to be broadcasted to all 150,000 people about a very important thing that needs to be heard right now. And it
Wow.
doesn't
Wow.
work, then your insurance better be really good.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
You know
and
what I
yeah,
mean?
this is the thing I love about you. I mean, guys in the audience, you got to hear. I mean, he's like humbly saying, "Oh yeah, facility and this." Okay, you came in and now are responsible for a piece of equipment working for 150 people in a stadium enjoying something. That is pressure. That is huge
Yeah,
pressure. So
yeah,
for
it
you,
is.
and this is where I'm. This is one of the reasons that I love having you on the show. It's because you're talking about something as an individual taking on such great responsibility, but it forces you to look at it from all angles. Number one, you had someone of that size trust and believe in you. You then, even though you're emitting terrifying, took it under control and did it in such a way that you're there 2.5 years and they rely on you heavily.
Yeah.
So many small individual service companies would only dream of coming into that position, and who knows how they would respond. And that's why you're such a beautiful example of a individual with a service business that isn't believing, oh, I got to have 10 people, I got to hire, I got to expand all this. You're like, okay, I got these clients, it's doing really well. And guys, profitable. His company's profitable. You know, I keep talking about the lack of profitability. This is a profitable person. Okay, before we go any further, we got to blend another part of the story in.
Okay.
So I think if I remember, and I may not remember correctly, we talked some time ago through the SBDC. It was, some kind of question. I don't even remember what it was, what our initial conversation was, to be honest with you, John. But
I
it's been
remember.
okay, so you'll be able to fill the blank because I don't remember. But it's been what, probably you'll tell me on that, a year ago or whatever.
Yeah.
I get contacted from John again, and this is as much of the story I want to share here. And I'll never forget it. You're like, okay, I want to have some business discussions about how to structure the company as some events are happening. I'm like, okay, yeah, thinking, new clients, like having the second baby. And I did this with the company during the first baby. And it really was stressful to the family. And I want to work through this and figure out the best way to do it. So your wonderful way of seeing things in a very simple manner and very detailed and logical, you've applied that type of calmness to each situation you've come up against. And you have, in my opinion, beautifully blended a personal family life, 2 kids now, with this high responsibility clients and a simple small company structure, and you've done it wonderful. Now, I'm not saying behind the scenes is not a lot of juggling, right? But you've approached it in such a mindset, such a simple mindset, which I feel led to your success. And you're not even aware of it. It's just how you are. So first of all, let's hear about the family. Let's bring the audience up. Let's hear about the family.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much. It's really hard to have kids. Um, Man, it's really, really hard. It's awesome. So I mean, just because I hate when people just say how hard it is. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Um, it's it's great. Um, but it's a whole different type of problem set. And navigating it. Um, I told myself when I was going to do this interview that I'm not going to speak quickly. um, uh, it's yeah. I mean, yeah. In short, it's that it's wonderful and it's really really difficult. Um, and navigating how to balance those two things the first time with my first kid, I was actually doing something completely different. Um, it was, and we can talk about how to naturally let success guide you into the and let success guide your business to where maybe it should be and not where you want it to be.
Okay,
But
Sadie, you got to capture that. Put that in the chat, by the way. Let success guide you. That was beautiful. Sorry, John, didn't mean to interrupt, but
no,
that was such
I'm
a
gonna say a
beautiful
lot of
sentence.
super corny stuff
No,
today.
that was just awesome. I loved it. Sadie, capture that. Keep going, John, please.
There's gonna be a lot of super super corny things I say here. But yeah, but I was doing something that was much more on the arts end. I was the producer, I was the engineer. Those are the people that I work with. Um, and you know, we don't know how much time it's going to take. Every kid is different. Most people's advice, it doesn't help And because it's, it's very dependent on the type of person you are and the life you have and where you are financially and all this stuff. But yeah, I ended up working, basically me and my wife worked complete opposite schedules so that we could be watching over our first kid. And we wanted to do everything we could to um, keep her home as long as possible with us before we did daycare. And we were willing to do anything to make that happen. And so we did. I mean, and I didn't sleep a lot, and it wasn't even because of the kid. It was because of I was working. Um, and so I was
And you would
constantly
work
trying
at
to,
night, wouldn't you? You would work
yeah,
at
yeah,
night and then she would work at night. So you guys didn't even get to see each other that much. As I
yeah,
mean, not that much, but I mean you were both going in full directions at the opposite times even.
yeah, and that's not a good idea. I mean, if you have to do it, I mean, like we had to, it was an experiment that we did. And while my daughter did get was able to get a lot of attention, get all the support that we could give her during that really important time. It's a team.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
group project. And me and and my wife, my partner, um, we didn't get to we spent moments together, but we didn't spend quality time together. And so
Right.
that was really hard. And yeah, and was something that you and I did talk about because it was like, well, I don't want to do that again. Um, and for my son who was born in December. He's wonderful. I love it. He's the best kid. And but I didn't want to do it again. I had to figure out some other way to make it work. Business is a completely different style of business. I'm not customer facing anymore. It's a kind of it's service, but it's more like almost getting your car worked on. You don't really have to be there. So for this side where I'm on the bench twisting wrenches. Um, and so it allowed for I approached it with this with a fear because of what happened last time. Um, but talking to you and talking to other people, which I would consider to be um, important mentors, valid mentors. What's the best way of saying it? People that you can actually trust and not just people who are offering advice. Um,
Another
and
brilliant thing.
yeah, so yeah, get some of those if you don't have any. But yeah, that everything it's not the same. It's a completely different situation. You just happen to be living in the same house, and it seems the same, but if you look deeper, it's completely different. And it's going to allow for more
Yeah.
control. There are the variables that can be changed in order to make things work the way that would allow me to spend quality time with my family. They're different now. The levers are different. So, and that's something that you and I talked about, and was important for me to realize what options I had and what could be changed. And now I'm approaching the next phase of things where my wife is going to go back to work, and I'm going to be with my son during a lot of part of the day and during the week. And I think I'm the luckiest human on the planet to be able to do that. And my business is still going to be operational, which is
Yeah.
crazy to think about. But it's also funny that when you speak to those like yourself, Lori, that the unravel this knot that exists in business. I'm not even going to say business owners' heads because that's general. In my head, of just stuff that it's just really difficult to see through. And so having trusted mentors and guidance allows you to kind of see that it could possibly be simpler than you're making it. And what we
And I
had to,
think that's the key. I'd like, yeah, I don't, as you go down and continue to talk about this, I think that's the one thing is that as we talked about it, the first inclination that most people have is I'm going to hire somebody and I'm going to do all
Yeah,
this. And
man.
I,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know
Yeah.
you're going down that road, and that's why I wanted
Yeah.
to just bring that up because as we talked, I said, well, that's one, but you end up paying out more than you would have made. You had been better
Yeah.
off not
Yes.
working in this case.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned, you had said different options, and I didn't want to interrupt you. I want you to keep going, but I just want you to kind of throw in that vein of thought too, because if you go down a trail of thought where the most would think you should, it limits your options and perspective of the situation. Sometimes the answers, the best answers I find, are the least complicated. They're the
Yes,
most
they
simple. Please continue.
absolutely they are. Yeah, they absolutely they are. And I will tell everybody that I had an entire call with Lori just about how to get help, and how to bring in an additional person to get help. Because I mean, and that there's I mean, I don't want to start throwing books out there, but there was one that I read. Oh, it's gonna kill me. I can't remember what it was. It was early on that I read it. But when you get to that point to where you start getting a lot of work, as the you can think about it as the person, as the technician, the person working on in the business, and then and then there needs to be a person who's working on the business. And when you start getting a lot of work, the person working on the business starts having to, stay away while this person's over here trying to make all of the stuff that your clients are asking for, and you just get so overwhelmed that you feel like you need someone to start helping you make the stuff. In the book, I remember they talk about a baker. So it's like, I need people to help me bake more things because more people want these baked goods. So now I'm hiring and I'm baking, and then all of a sudden it just gets out of control because no one's managing what's actually happening, um, what the business is actually doing. I mean, it's from an admin perspective, it's really important to stay on top of what is actually happening with how your business is being run. And when you're getting a lot of work, it's a great point. Remember, we talked about it. It's a really good point to start to talk to somebody about not getting help working in your business, but how to get help working on your business and what your business actually does. Because you and I talked, and this is to finally get to your responding to your question. You can change, um, pricing structures. You can change client interaction. You can change onboarding processes. You can change pretty much I mean, it's difficult if you have a brick and mortar, I'd imagine. But in my case, which I don't, um, you can change so much to alter the customer set so that it continues to meet your needs as a business and continues to meet your needs as a human who is working X number of hours per day. Um, and in my case, specifically, um, I get a lot of, like, Google for me has worked really well. I get a lot of calls from Google. Pretty much all my new clients are from Google. Um, and a lot of your new clients are going to be, I mean, there's always a lot of one-offs. People who ask you, sometimes they can't afford you, sometimes they can't fit your schedule, sometimes your timeline doesn't work for them. Everybody knows that new clients are the most expensive clients.
Yeah.
Um, and in my case, I needed time. So I needed to figure out a way to get time. Money, it was a different thing. My wife is working and has a great job. And so I needed to figure out a way to keep my business, I'll keep the clients that I think are really important, happy, give them realistic expectations for new turnaround times, and let them know that they are valuable. I want to keep them, but I as well am going through a change personally because I have my son, and I brought them in a little bit more because they are very important clients and they know a lot about me and I see them all the time. And then when it comes to new clients and onboarding clients, that's kind of where I saw when you and I talked, that's where I saw where a huge change could be made to where I don't need to be taking every single call I get. I don't need to be responding to every single email I get. Because like I said, that just responding
Mhm.
is hours of time. Like my days at this point, when I was fully working, I wouldn't even touch a repair until like noon, and I had came in at 8:30 or something like that, or 9. And so that's several hours a day of just responding to new clients who I don't even know if at the end of the day is gonna add to the success of my business. It could, and that's what I called you about specifically. Was I remember it was I get all these people, and every once in a while, one out of every 200 is like, oh man, that's a great connection. That's a great client that I need to make sure I take care of. And I was talking to you specifically about how do I keep that one and make sure that the rest of them still get a response that is valid. And but at the same time make sure that that one doesn't slip through, because if that one slips through, that's that sucks for when I do decide to come back full time.
Right.
And we did change. I think I did change the website. The website for the first time actually has prices on it, which I like, which I love talking to you because everyone I've talked to and experienced has been like, don't ever give up that, like,
I
that
know.
question mark of how much it will
Yeah.
cost, because then you
Yeah.
can start the conversation um and all that kind of thing, which I hate when people don't give me a price. But your explanation and something that you told me and that it seems like you've always been really happy about, and I would love for, I mean, maybe everyone who's listening has already heard this from you, but if they haven't, I think you should definitely talk about it. Is like why not do that?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's rules and stuff, but but what that might not apply to you. And it just seems like there's like just these golden rules. And it's just like sometimes like, well, what what if I don't have social media? You know? Like what if I just don't? What's gonna
Yeah.
happen? Um, Running experiments like that. It's important. And I'm sorry, I don't know if there was something you wanted to say on that. I know I
No,
said it.
I love it. I'll come back and fill in some blanks. But like I said, this is exactly why I thought it was so important to have you on the show. And I think for me, organizing in my response with the words you said is the very first step is a mindset of just the awareness of the ability to question. Okay. I know that sounds like a mouthful what I'm saying, but
Yeah,
so many people, and I know because I had to get myself out of the cage, you just follow these rules and you don't even consider questioning them. You don't even consider. You don't. So what that means is your
yeah,
brain's shut down. You're not even using your brain because you're just accepting it as the way you're supposed to do it without even questioning it. So you're not thinking. Your brain shut down. I tend to be that one that says, "Well, why do we do it that way?" As a kid, I was a pain in the
yeah.
butt, right?
And do you think that that has to do with just, do you think that has to do with learning? I mean, you said this the first time you and I talked. You're going to get to that point to where you realized how things actually run, how things actually work. And do you
Yeah,
think that that sort of mindset you're talking about is just you finally maybe gotten over that hill of now you're realizing that, oh, it's not just a,
that is a beautiful question. And you know what I think on that? That's a beautiful question. It would be so awesome to say, oh, yeah, you just get enough experience and you know it. But I think it's different, Jon. I think it's when you get over, you ready, guys? Fear. Your fear of being a new business owner. I got to grab every client. I got to grab every client. If I don't look like this, if I put a price on, I'm going to lose something and lose some. So everyone is in that same, to different degrees, fear mindset. So they're all operating and creating the rules. You got to be on social media. You got to post all over. They're all operating from a level of fear, different percentages. So these rules become fear-based. And when you walk back and say, but wait a minute, is this working for me and my situation? You start to, and being a consultant, I get to see a lot of examples, and I see it every day. I see a ton of people running around, that old expression, like chickens with their heads cut off, massively trying to duplicate everything they see and hear as fast as they can. And they could eliminate 60% of their activity and probably not change anything financially in the company except for get 60% of their time back to make positive changes. So I think it's fear that has to do with it. And I'll share real quick. I was telling John, I think I told you the story back in my young days. I think I was, I was probably in my 30s because I already had gotten into the finance end of my consulting. I was up against companies that were bigger than me. I was just me, and these were companies, and they would have, in the day, there was no internet, right? You would go to the company and you would walk the shop floor as a consultant, and you would start to talk with the people to sell yourself, right? Well, they had salespeople out doing that. So they needed to throw the spaghetti against the wall, that concept. When you got a sales force or you got a team, that's what they're supposed to do. Have 20 useless meetings to get 5. When you're a solopreneur, you can't. You've got to make sure your time is always accounted for, right? So I decided to create a process that was very clear on the website. This is what I do. This is how much it costs. And I was told immediately that is a ridiculous thing to do. And I was scared to do it as well. But when I did it, what I found, and this was the interesting thing, and I've since seen it repeated, the customer got clarity from me. They didn't have this vagueness. They understood what I did, what I didn't, how much I cost, and the process in order to engage my services. And they found comfort in that clarity. And I started winning more projects than my competitors, right? So when we, like you said, I hate when people don't do prices. We be the customer and we acknowledge that. Then we're over here going, don't do prices. And a lot of it is because you're going to negotiate down. But if you can sell it that cheap, sell it that cheap. Don't play games when you're a small company. There's no reason to. Just put a price that makes it financially feasible and get the best clients you can willing to pay for that price. It's a very simple mechanics, because unlike a bigger client, you don't need 10 million customers. You're a great example. You've grown organically through referrals. You need good companies willing to pay the price you need to charge to make the company profitable and support your lifestyle.
Yeah, and you said a couple of things that I'd like to bring up. Um, I would say the first one is the fear, is fear. Uh, I am blessed to have a wonderful wife, um, who has challenged me to slow down and think more.
That's
Um,
beautiful.
that's the dumbest thing I've ever said.
Wow, that's
But
great.
it's crazy, and then the thing that I would say has fundamentally helped me the most in the last year, was, I can't remember where, I can't remember who said it, but here's another dumb quote. Um, was that completely understanding the problem, if you're able to completely understand the problem, you're more than halfway towards the actual solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that to me is what the fear part is. Because when you're working on a business, and I say because it was only a couple of years ago for me, was that nothing was working. No matter how hard I worked, nothing was working. I kept doing things and I thought I was doing a good job, and nothing was working. And it's because I truly and people had told me this, but because I was in that phase of my new business era, I didn't listen to them. Was just like that you have to understand the problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And if when you start trying to figure out the problem, you'll start seeing the math. And like and I'm this might please stop me if this is stupid, but
It's not. Keep going.
sometimes the math doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. Believe me, as a CFO in turnaround, the math does not work a lot of
And
times.
yeah, and if you don't even have the math and you're just running on fear, you're gonna run out of money so fast.
Oh, that's brilliant. Not stupid. Brilliant. Sadie, isn't that awesome?
Right? Like yeah, that's just what happens at the end of the day is you just start running out of money. And then some people don't, I'm sorry, I don't like to say that. I use my own experience. I was always trying to find key indicators within my finances that I knew that if that number goes down, then we have a problem. Because like I'm not a finance expert, I'm not an accounting expert, not a bookkeeper. I've gotten better at it, but it's hard. Is that every once in a while you'll be working on your business and looking at the money and money coming in and out and flowing and what you're spending it on. And every once in a while you'll find a couple of numbers that for some reason just seem to be good guiding stars as far as how things are doing overall. And I'll let you know, like there's like a business checking account and money was coming in and out of that account for various different things. And I noticed after like a year that for some reason that number was always staying at the plus or minus $500 of this value. And then I remember when it would go above that value, things were actually, I felt, and it was obvious that things were going well, and was below that value, things weren't going well, and I needed to focus more. So like I focused, I tried to find these numbers that would help guide me. And there was points to where like I was doing things and I was losing money and it was like this isn't going to work. Or even worse, I saw that I was losing money and didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I was just like, well, I'm just gonna get that $500 Google Ads credit because I've spent $250. So
yeah.
it's worth it's like, no, it's not. Like it doesn't it doesn't work that way. So yeah, I'm sorry, I started speaking too fast. But yeah, it's important to make the math make sense. And sometimes the very fundamental issue with why your business isn't succeeding is that the very fundamental thing you're doing doesn't make any sense for the market that you're operating in. I can't do this business in the middle of nowhere in the United States.
Right.
My business works, I've learned, because I work in Los Angeles or I'm in Long Beach. But I work a lot with folks in Los Angeles, and that's where the music scene is. And people take
Uh-huh.
music
Yeah,
seriously. It's
yeah,
not it's not, I mean, it's funny because like my whole life I always dreamed to live in LA because I knew it was a place where I could come where people took this art form extremely
yeah.
seriously. People come every single day from all over the world to take part in this culture. And what I was doing as an engineer, as a producer, music producer, it just fundamentally I couldn't make it make sense. And that's just because it's also one of those things where it's like it's a yes, it's a very small percentage of people that make it. Um, but I found another avenue when I became really serious about making a business work. And that happened because I was in a studio at one point and I was trying to get a job there. And and there was a piece of gear that wasn't working, which happens all the time. And I asked to use it, and the guy said, "Oh, it's not working." And I was like, "Well, let me take a look at it," because I mean, I've in the past, my professional degree is actually in electrical engineering, and and so I had repaired small stuff for music here and there, And so I fixed it for him. And it was just something small and simple, but to me. And he was like, "Hey, I got this other thing." And I was like, "Yeah, let me take a look at it." And I don't, maybe I didn't get that one to work or something, but this is what I said earlier was there's going to be moments like that that happen, and you have to be aware that, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the world or the industry or God, like
Yeah.
you've been given this little window into a profitable, possibly profit, a need
Mhm.
that needs to be filled. And at that point, he wanted me to fix some other stuff. Some other guy heard about me through him. I fixed some of his stuff. And then it was just like, it just started rolling because it was something, there was a need that needed to be filled, and I found the people that needed it and I had access to them. And it was a possibility that could only happen in that moment. Um, and I saw it, and that has happened several times in my career, and I can point at each one because they're massive pivot points to where if you can identify it, you can let your business be guided by the success and be guided by a need, and people will, all of a sudden you will start doing better. And it's because for me, I wasn't stuck in this dream anymore about I'm gonna make records that I'm gonna get Grammys for or anything like that. It was I needed to create a business that made sense for the lifestyle I want to lead now. And now because of that, it was just like I just let it guide me, and I was able to build up a clientele that respected what I did. There was a need for it. I was in a place where it worked. The math started adding up.
Started adding up. What I love about and what you said, and hopefully I can capture it. I'm a definite example of someone who followed something unexpectedly. I tell a story all the time that I started out as a marketing salesperson. I hated numbers. I hated finance. If you told me back when I was in my 20s, even in my 30s, that I was going to be they call me the guru of all finance, and I was going to be this tax finance CFO banker, I would have laughed in your face. I hated numbers. The whole reason I got here is I kept asking the question in my company at 25, am I making any money, and why can't anybody explain it to me? So it was me searching this answer and then realizing others were asking the same question and had no one to explain it to them. And I understood it. That made me want to run out and explain it. Right. So that's definitely the situation of being aware, and the universe or whoever you want to create it, God, whatever directs you in a way. And I'm not trying to be mystical here, but what I am trying to do is say it ties back into what you said: slow down, think, and look where the math does not add up. When
Yeah.
I was 20s, in my 20s, there was no such plethora of books and people on YouTube saying, find a need and fill it and all this. And so all this information that's been thrown into people, it's caused them to mentally shut down their awareness. They're following this book and I got to go find that need. I got to go find that need. And like I said, that's where I get the chicken with the head cut off. You silently sat there, noticed something and observed it and said, huh, how fascinating. That is what the true find a need and fill it looks like in activity. It's not, let me do a template on a business plan and I'm filling the need. And I see it all the time. I see these
Yeah.
small people
Yeah.
starting a company. It's $1 billion industry. I'm like, you need 3 clients. What in the world are you talking about? So this is the going back to this simplicity where you're actually using your awareness, your experience, your intuition, getting rid of the fear and starting to say, what is in my surrounding area? And I also think it has a lot to do with, and you're a beautiful example of it, is think small to get big if you want. Don't think big when you're small. Think small. How do I get 1 client? How do I get 2 clients? What if I have 3? What if I have 4? That's the other thing in my world. When I was going into business, we weren't going into entrepreneurship, it didn't exist. In fact, in my life, we were doing stupid things. We were leaving the corporation. Nobody did that back then, right? And so we didn't go into it going, I'm leaving the corporation and I'm going to be this and then I'm going to have locations and franchises. I need an LLC. Should I be taxes? Believe me, I hear this every day until I'm exhausted. We literally said, well, I owe this much per month. I got to get a client to at least pay that. And how do I get a five more? And just like, if you will, Sam Walton, you grow to an enterprise or you're still the local store, whatever. It doesn't matter what you
Yeah.
became. There wasn't this, I'm good because I'm big and I'm not because I'm small. It was what creates my need. And I think we've fallen so far away from the purpose of, as somebody just said to me the other day, you got paper. I'm like, what the does that mean? They go, money. Okay. So we have fallen so far from the actual purpose of money. Money is to create the experiences in life that we actually want and need, not what we perceive we want and need. And I think that is a known fact about humans, expanding, especially in the West. But I think it's also become a business disease almost. And you've just kind of looked at it and said, this is a good client, this is not. Google's working, it's not. We talked about restructuring, and that's where the organic work's coming from. And this is why when your second child came, you were able to successfully maintain the company, maintain the finances. And now, as time is opening up for you, you'll be able to grow wherever you want to grow. So, all that you're saying is extremely important. And what I love about it, it's said in such a simple way that perhaps the audience gets to hear it differently for the first time.
Yeah. 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 I think considering, I wish someone had told me when I was in high school, hopefully my high school brain would have cared enough, but that like you should be striving to be happy and to have joy in your life. And what does that mean for your career?
Yeah, beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Rather
Absolutely.
than being like, what do you like to do in your free time?
Yeah, yeah, I
Maybe you
know,
should
I
make that
know.
your job. Um, so yeah, I mean, I do want to put out there that I'm blessed to have, the support that I have and the family I have, and in order to even have started this sort of career, because I mean, I did my past life was in larger. I did move down from Silicon Valley, and talking about a mindset,
I
talk about
bet.
it's woof. Yeah, like is there companies being started every day with the goal of becoming a global enterprise and whatever the newest billion-dollar industry is up there? Absolutely. That's the joke, right? Industry, I mean. Um, so yeah, yeah,
As we close here, and I don't know if you'll even remember because I can't, but there was something that your mother-in-law said, and I said, your mother-in-law's brilliant. What was it? Do you remember by
I
any
do.
chance?
I
You
do,
may.
of
Oh, you
course.
do? Okay, you do.
Yeah,
I
'cause
have no memory other than I loved what your mother-in-law said, so I'm kind of listening to it for the first time too.
yeah,
As we
no,
end the
just
show, what did
because
your mother-in-law say that I loved so much?
shout out to my mother-in-law who is a genius. Um, I was talking to her about her business and she said, I knew that I wanted to run a small business where I did all of the work.
That's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah. And it was like no one had ever told me that that was okay.
yeah.
No one had ever told me that that was the goal. It was like I want to do something that I appreciate, where I do all the work and it's small, where I know my customers, I know my clients, not some, you know, Hail Mary shot to the moon of what your business could be. So yeah, that was really cool.
And what I'm about is putting choices back on the table. Not saying one is better than another, it's all personal, but at least putting choices back on the table. And I think I can't believe it's 11 o'clock already, but I really want to thank you for coming on. I told Sadie at the beginning with John there, I was like, I didn't think he was going to say yes. I really did. I thought for sure he'd say, no, I'm
Almost
not going to
did
come on. I was
it.
really amazed when he said, okay, I will.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy because, like I said, the gives people an opportunity to hear it with a new ear. And I just say kudos and congratulations because you fought off all the hype, all of the belief, all the fear, and just kept present. You kept present, you kept aware, you kept asking questions, and you were very clear on what you wanted for you and your family and what you did not. And you kept that foundation and you built around it. And whether you have a family or not, I mean, I don't have a family, but I've always been clear what I want and what I don't want. And I think
Yes.
that is, I always say that I think one of the things that people lack knowledge of the most that's so important is what they really, really want. Not what they're told they want, not what they think they should want. No, but what
Yes.
they really, really want. Because I
Yes.
think if you get clear on what you really, really want, things will happen to bring that into play. I really do. Any last words, John? I think you've
Well,
given plenty, but if you want to make any last words, please do.
well, I mean, I don't know. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, Sadie. I mean, I thank you for everything at small business. It's and for the whole organization and how everything works and giving me someone like you who I look forward to asking questions to, knowing that your expertise and background qualifies you to answer those questions. Um, so yeah, just thank you for being a part of my journey and I look forward to continuing on.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Sadie, was that not a beautiful interview?
I mean, it's one of those things where I was like, oh, tell me more. Tell me about more about how your family inspires you.
Yeah, I know. I know. We don't hear enough of that. So, guys, thank you. For those who are new, please tune in to Small Biz Talk. For those that are here with me every single week, I seen all your name into the chat. I'm so happy to have you here every single week. Next week, we're going to talk about 401, guys. Come and join us and at least get a little bit of that information. And as always, if you miss it, you can always go to the YouTube channel and you can watch the show again. So Sadie will stay behind. She'll make sure you get all the information, whether it's to contact me, get any of the links from my earlier discussion, or to give a shout out to John. His email is in there as well. John, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your journey, your honesty, and just being who you are. It's a delight having your presence. So I have to tune out now. So everybody, I will see you next week on Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. Bye, everybody. Bye, John.
Bye,
Bye,
Lori.
Sadie.
Take care.
Hi. Alrighty, guys. So we know the drill. I'm gonna hang out with you for a little bit, just so I can make sure that you guys get all the links. I'm dropping down all those IRS links that Lori was talking about earlier. If you want to click away, because as you know, once I close down the chat, it is over in terms of links. But do not worry. I'm gonna hang out for a few. I'm just gonna put myself on mute. And I make the assumption that everyone here is already a client of the SBDC, but if you are not, please go ahead, contact us. Have your own one-on-one business advising appointment, right? I mean, you see the power of the SBDC. Let us rock out your small business. So on that note, I am on mute, but I am here. Don't you worry.